Hey guys, it's 258. Welcome back to another reading. I'm not sure why, but this one's like a clop and it's getting me like all nervous or excited. It's one of those two. I'm not sure if it's nervousness or excitement. I'm just in between both and I don't know what to expect after this. Because this one's been the one that I've been wanting to read. So, like I'm starting from the beginning of the backlog that I had on my FimFiction account. So everything's just things I don't remember putting on that log. But I'm trying my best, alright? Anyways, this is a macrophilia story that, from the thumbnail, I would assume you would get that. Hopefully, it's still the same thumbnail. I'm not sure. With YouTube being all pure and want to be innocent little shitheads, I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. So, So, you know, this is that. Rarity Spike story. I guess let's just hop right into it. Exploring a gemstone mine, Spike came home from the store with an armful of groceries. Twilight echoed out. His voice echoed throughout the castle, but there was no response. He seemed to have come home to an empty castle. As Spike started emptying the groceries, he lamented his lack of success with Rarity. He was a fully grown dragon now, and the two were dating, but he had never gotten an opportunity to sleep with her. Why wasn't she into him? All the stand-ins in town seemed to get all the mayors. Was it because he was a dragon? All Rarity did was endlessly cock tease him. He hadn't even gotten to the first base with her. There must have been some kinky shit that she was into that she was afraid to share with him. As he finished emptying his bags, he saw a note on the table. It was from Twilight and read, "Sorry, I'm not home, Spike. The girls and I were called away to Canterlot on urgent business. Help yourself to whatever you want in the cupboards. We'll be back by Tuesday. Sincerely, Twilight Sparkle." Spike was overjoyed. All of his friends were out of town. He could do whatever he felt like and was accountable to no one. Now was his chance to get over Rarity's house so he could look through her personal belongings. If Rarity was indeed hiding some secret kink from him, he needed to find out what it was. He took a few deep breaths before escaping outside into the cool evening breeze. Right. I feel like you should just talk about it, like don't just sneak into her house. Like, you just talk about this. If you're dating her, ask like why haven't we gone to that level yet? Or is that the logical non-fiction side of me explaining that? It's back to this. As Spike wandered over to Rarity's, he noticed the lights were all out, signifying no pony was home. The door was locked, but it was fine by him because he knew that Rarity was in the habit of forgetting to lock her back window. He climbed in through the window quietly, sneaked through the storefront up to Rarity's bedroom. Spike looked under Rarity's bed. If she was going to hide in any sort of fetish gear, it'd probably be there. After all, that's where he kept pictures of Rarity. He spotted a shoebox under her bed and pulled it out. It was full of tiny plastic miniature ponies. "What are these?" Spike scratched his head. Is Rarity turned on by the prospect of lording over tiny ponies? That's interesting. But is it fetish material for you, though? Like, I know it's a common thing, but is it fetish material for you, Spike? It's just having pictures of Rarity. Suddenly, Spike heard a noise from downstairs. What the heck was that? Spike gulped, quickly pushing the box back. He realized the noise was the boutique's front door opening and quickly rushed behind us, couldn't hide. Just as he heard footsteps coming to the upstairs, a familiar-looking white pony appeared instead. Spike gasped. It was Rarity. What was she doing here? She was supposed to be in Canterlot. Rarity stretched her body out and plopped down on him. She purred happily. "Oh, Rarity, you naughty little thing." Spike's eyes widened. Rarity was already a very attractive mare, but seeing her squirming around on her bed made his members stiff with lust. Wait, was it important? That's the problem. Was it important? Ditching Twilight's silly meeting with Felicity just so you could go get some precious alone time, Rarity panicked. "For shame, but I just had to. It isn't every night Sweetie Belle spends the evening at Apple Bloom's." Both of them proceeded to do what any horny young person would do in a house they had all to themselves. She removed her clothes and started wandering around in her underwear. I absolutely need to be completely alone for this. Well, that's already like something. Fam, you're a unicorn. I feel like you should always have like something checking horn wise, you know. Anyways, my version of this being whatever. Whoa! Spike saw as Rarity floated over to the mirror and started gyrating her sexy body in front of it. "What of you?" But Rarity wasn't finished. She unclasped her purple silk bra, revealing her large curvaceous breast. "Oh, sweet Celestia," Spike thought as he peeked from the curtain. Rarity's long purple hair brushed down her incredible figure. I guess that's a typo, I'm not sure. No one would say incredibly like that. She stood directly next to the mirror and started grinding her hips against it. Spike's jaws dropped as the sultry mare fluffed her hair and struck pose after erection-inducing pose. His thirsty eyes drank in her full, magnificent breasts. Her slim waist, her flat stomach, the lovely curve of her ass. She was the sexiest creature he had ever seen, and here she was, almost completely nude and playing it up for all she was worth in front of a full-length mirror. As Spike stared, he started to lose control of his body. He had similar reactions seeing Rarity before, and he thought he had gotten over it, but seeing her like this, he was almost physically incapacitated as he watched the sultry mare engaging in her erotic dance. Spike was absolutely spellbound. Rarity continued dancing before the mirror, ogling herself. Oh, Rarity, she knew to talk to herself. You're perfect, absolutely perfect. My breasts, my ass, my waist, all flawless, all the height of perfection. What other mirror in town can come close to having this great of a figure? She loved to wriggle and pose for herself in front of the mirror, pretending she was fawned over by millions of her adoring fans. Unknown to her, she had at least one watching from the sidelines. Yeah, they're dating. I feel like this would be fine for you to do in front of him too, but like, he's peeking technically to you. Rarity loved her sexuality and took every opportunity she had to experiment with. When she first went into puberty, she was able to see the effect on the foes in her classes. After several years of ever-encasing hormones, she had to learn to wield her amazing body like a deadly sexual weapon. Rarity chuckled as he thought of Shirley giving her a talk during her senior year. She told Rarity she was more developed than the other mirrors, and to please dress appropriately as to not distract her classmates. Despite her unique dress code, her sexuality was still a massive distraction. Stallion test scores were down 10 points that semester, something that Rarity took credit for and was quite proud of. That's probably bad. Evenings when Sweetie and her friends were out were her special me time. It was when she could let her hair down, wander around nude, and bask in her sexual desires. Rarity did in fact have a particular kink that made her wetter than anything else, but she didn't dare share it with any of her friends due to how embarrassing it was when she was alone. Rarity levitated over an apple, not for the worm much. She closed her eyes and focused a spell on the apple. Spike gasped in surprise as the apple grew almost 10 times in size, resembling a large red pumpkin. Rarity seemed to have an innate affinity for this type of magic. Rarity grinned. She knew the spell could be used for growing things besides apples. She was already perfect, so the only way for her to be better was for there to be even more of that perfection. She focused on the spell on her already gigantic memories. Okay, I need. It's been a while. What is this? Breast. Okay. That's a fucking just say breast. This is a fan fiction, man. You don't need to get all fucking like scientific on me all of a sudden. Unless it's a Twilight fic, but that's a different matter. Rarity moaned with pleasure as she felt her breast enlarging. Her breast felt like a pair of massive balloons being filled with milk. She started rolling on the floor as her breast swelled close to the size of her head. Rarity panted with pleasure as her breast swayed undoubtedly. Oh, Celestia. Oh! She moaned. Spike's nose started bleeping as he stared at the moaning mare's impossibly large breasts. His cock throbbed with lust as he watched Rarity crawl across the floor, her giant boobs dragging against the floor as she did. Spike could control himself no longer. His hand found its way inside his shorts and started masturbating as quietly as he could. She was sexier in the flesh than he had ever imagined in his dreams. Rarity moaned as she continued using her magic to augment various parts of her body. More height, thicker hips, a more pronounced plot. It feels good when I grow. She panted, letting a small amount of drool roll down her flawless skin. I better make sure I can still cast the counter spell. I definitely don't have to explain to you why I now have the breast the size of bowling balls. She focused her magic at the apple again, and it shrunk down to its original size. Good, said Rarity. She fired the spell at one of her spare mannequins, which shrank down to the size of a mouse. Wait, is that her first time using it then? Is that why she wanted this time to actually test this out? Is it the first time she found the spell? Now that's what I want to know. As the fiberglass pony shrunk, Rarity noticed a slight movement and smacking noise coming from behind the curtain. She gasped and instantly fired a spell into the curtains, which shrunk down to only a tenth of their original size. She stumped over towards a shrunken figure trapped in the curtain. Who's there? Who are you? And thief, what are you doing in my house? She gasped. Spike froze. Shit, he thought. Froze for a second to consider his options. If he turned around, she would catch him instantly. His sex-edged body would never be able to outrun her massive body. On the other hand, if he stayed, he might be able to convince her to forgive him for spying on her. After all, they were dating. Oh, come on. I'm not going to read the next line because I don't want to read it right now. Which one is you going to choose, boys? Run away, talk it out, or just accept whatever punishment's going to come next. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Rarity quickly stood across the room and loomed over the shrinking curtain. Now, of her initial surprise, she was fuming mad. She lowered her massive face to the curtain. Who are you? Step out of that curtain right now. Spike timidly walked out of the shrunken fabric, shocked to see how massive the colossal mare was compared to this tiny form. I'm sorry, Rarity. I couldn't help myself. His eyes gazed up at her skimpy lingerie, which stood almost at eye level as his lover crouched over him. Spike, she looked at him. What are you doing here? Yeah. Yeah, that's me. Look, he tried to explain. You little pervert. She loomed over his tiny form. How long have you been standing there? Did you see everything? I'm really sorry. I snuck in to see if I could find out what sort of stuff you were into. I just wanted to be in and out, but you came in, so I hid, and then you started. Spike held his tongue as ready to glare down and look. It's an honest mistake, okay? How's that on? Fam, you literally broke in. I don't believe. This is what I said. You literally broke in. That's not an honest mistake. You broke in, dude. You bet your flank it was a mistake, she shouted, reaching down to pick up a miniature dragon by his waist. She raised him to eye level. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't turn your tiny butt into twilight. Spike stared up at her massive, angry face. Spike was really worried. She could crush his tiny body with a single squeeze of her gigantic hand. Look, please, just calm down. Let me explain, he begged. She set him down on her dresser and towered over him with her hands on her hips. Okay, Spike, I'd like to hear your excuse. Spike sighed. I just wanted. He mumbled, failing to answer. Spike leaned forward. What was that? She asked. Spike just sat there as he stared at the colossal breast bouncing before him. Despite the fact that Rarity's glowing face was glaring down at him, she still couldn't get over just how attractive she was. He found it completely impossible to take his eye away from her, although he desperately needed to concentrate on the situation. Spike decided to throw himself on her mercy. I'm sorry, Spike gulped. You're... Oh, fuck. You're right, there's really no excuse for me breaking into your house, let alone spying on you when you thought you were alone. You're very attractive. I wanted to be with you. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, you paused. I didn't do anything to make it up to you. Oh, I'd do anything to make it up to you. Oh. You might have saved your butt there. Anything? Rarity grinned, raising her eyebrows and crossing her arms in front of her shapely breasts. Yes, Spike gulped, wondering what he had just got himself into. Okay, Rarity grinned. What did you have in mind? Asked Spike, watering your plans for a month. No, Rarity purred. I was thinking something a little more intimate. That's why you broke in here in the first place, wasn't it? Spike quietly nodded. She's a dom. Well, minifics were in case this part of her, but and this one specifically is crazy. I love being in control of guys. Rarity gently stroked his chin. Normally, I use my feminine charm to get what I want, but the idea of being able to completely dominate someone like they were an object, well, this is a little fantasy of mine. Spike worried slightly as a sudden change in Rarity's attitude. What was she gonna do to him? Alright, Specky, she grinned. You let me have my way with you, and I'll keep quiet about this whole incident. What? Specky saying? You want to use me as a sex toy? You heard me. I want to dominate you, to let me do whatever I want with you, to make you my little slave. She tapped his tiny chest with her massive finger. Unless you want me to let everybody know what a sleazy perv you are. Ah, shit. Spike gulped. Well, Rarity smiled at him. But you're absolutely huge. Spike fell backwards. You'll crush me. Hey, I haven't been taking magic lessons for nothing. She looked a little insulted. I know a wide variety of spells I can use to keep you safe. After all, I wouldn't want my favorite toy breaking on me. Spike gulped. It wasn't like he could really say no, and Twilight would be furious if she knew he had broken into Rarity's house. Besides, Rarity could do whatever she wanted to him. Regardless of whether he gave consent or not, he was completely helpless before her. He slowly backed away from the giant mare. Well, Rarity smiled down at Spike. Alright, Spike conceded, but be careful, please. I'm not gonna hurt you. Come here, Spiky. Rarity reached towards Spike. He held his tiny arms over his head, desperately trying to shield himself from her advancing hand. It was a futile defense. She effortlessly lifted him into the air. Spike let out a terrified yelp, but calmed herself when he saw her huge, pendulous breast before him. She leaned forward to kiss his little face. Wait, what? Yeah, breast. She leaned forward to kiss his little face. Her luscious lips rounded in a huge O shape. Oh, Spike, she moaned. You have no idea how much pleasure you're gonna bring me. Well, that's scary. That would be fucking terrifying, dude. Also, I wouldn't break in. I feel like I would want to talk to this, and I feel like, oh, not yet. But I would be like, okay. The effect on Little Spike was paralyzing. Her giant lips and huge breasts seemed to completely fill his view. He gasped for breath as Rose released him from her kiss, only for her to nestle him safely between her gigantic, perfect boobs. Spike was frozen stiff by a combination of awe, lust, and the pressure of the giant mare's enormous breasts. It wasn't at a risk of being crushed, as her breasts were soft like a pair of oversized pillows, but his tiny body was completely pinned. It was also extremely hot, causing his body to become slick with a mix of both Rarity's and his own sweat. I've been doing this with artificial constructs for quite a while, ready to push them further between her breasts, but to be able to have my way with a living, thinking being. It's intoxicating. Spike twisted and screamed, but was helplessly trapped in her undulating bosom. I'm glad you're enjoying this, he grunted. What's the matter, Spike? Rarity teased. You want out? I'm not exactly sure, Spike gulped. It was somewhere between terrified and aroused. They're really soft and nice and warm, and it is a long way down. I think it'd be best if I just stayed here. Well, now, Spike, Rarity smiled down at the defensive little dragon nuzzled between her breasts. If you just stay there, you won't have any opportunity to explore the rest of my amazing body. So what do you say we shake things up? She started massaging her enormous orbs. Spike shouted in protest. The huge mare's breast threatened to crush him or drop him. His tiny claws were able to pull him free from the crushing pressure of booze, but he couldn't keep his balance on the slick surface of her sweaty breast flesh. Spike slid forward and only managed to avoid falling by grabbing onto Rarity's left nipple. You could feel her tit growing slick with sweat and milk as she became more and more turned on. Rarity, Spike cried, I'm going to fall. Rarity ignored him. She continued feeling her right breast with her hands as Spike dangled hopelessly on its sister. Rarity, he cried, as his grip failed and plummeted towards the floor, but just before he was turned into a dragon paste, he felt a powerful magical aura catch him inches from the floor. Rarity dangled the miniature dragon before her eyes and gave grin. You didn't think I was going to let you die, did you? Yeah, Spike gulped. Despite how afraid he was, he had to admit he was really turned on. Nothing like being smothered by a pair of gigantic breasts and almost dying to get the blood pumping. I wouldn't be able to have any fun with you, dead. Rarity teased. She gently set Spike down on the carpeting and loomed over him with her entire body. What do you think, Spike? She ran her hand down her perfect body. Impressive, isn't it? She asked. It sure is, Spike said without a hint of sarcasm. Do you think it would be more impressive if there was more of it? Rarity shot him a sultry look. Spike gulped. He didn't know what to say. Rarity's enormous, flawless body hovering above him was seriously making him consider his options, but she was already absolutely massive. She was an easy 7 feet tall, and Spike was barely 6 inches. Honestly, Spike was afraid he'd become any bigger, but he was afraid of giving his real thoughts on the subject. I don't know, was all he managed to spread out. Well then, maybe you just need a closer look at it. Rarity giggled as she crouched down and sat on him. Spike raised his arms as if they would protect him from her enormous weight. Spike opened his eyes to see that Rarity had stopped just an inch away from crushing him, his face filled with a wonderful view of her silk-covered crotch. Spike's eyes widened as he felt her pungent musk over him. Damn, she was horny. Her pussy was simply glistening with pee. He put a hand up and gently brushed against her lingerie. Then he felt it get farther away. Was Rarity standing up? No, she was growing. Spike gasped as her already titanic body grew to 12 feet, causing his relative body size to halve. Her tight G-string couldn't contain her expanding girth. It exploded into a mess of ruined fabric, leaving Rarity's oozing pussy fully exposed to Spike. Oh, okay, back to this. Rarity raised an eyebrow at the Shrunken dragon. Ooh, she smiled. It looks like you like what you see. Rarity grinned down at Spike. Her body tingled with joy as she teased Spike with her sexuality. She was absolutely filled with deviant glee. The feeling of power she got from toying with Spike was orgasm-inducing. This had always been a secret fantasy of her, and now she was utterly dominating Spike with her pussy. She was getting turned on like never before. Her pussy simply ached with pleasure. She slowly levitated Spike towards his quivering mirror. Stop it, Spike, please let me go. What? Why is he pleading? Rarity broke out of her trance and lifted him up to her muzzle with a magic. Do you really want me to be let go? She asked with a slight hint of concern. Or are you just role-playing? Huh? Asked Spike. What? I'm now confused too. What the fuck? I all got confused after Spike said that. I thought he was trapped with something. Huh? Asked Spike. Look at you. Rarity gestured towards his tiny erection. You seem to be enjoying this almost as much as I am. I assumed you were into this. Now I'm confused, dude. What? Now that Spike thought about it, he was really having a good time. Sure, he was afraid, but the fear seemed to really turn him on. Who would have thought that being dominated by a mare over 100 times the size would be what he got off to? Well, I'm confused too. I'm literally like speechless. I don't want to keep doing this if you're really afraid, Rarity frowned. If you want me to stop, just say so and I'll let you go. But what about telling Twilight that I Spike started? Rarity held up her hand. My lips are sealed, she smiled. Thanks, Spike blushed. But I'd do anything to make you happy, even if you do have quite the unorthodox kink. So it's gonna be. Rarity set him down on her muzzle, her bright blue eyes staring directly at him. And she wants to stay or go. Spike thought for a moment. He hadn't felt this turned on in his entire life. To imagine himself being inside Rarity, her sweet juices completely smothering him. He couldn't just say no. Yes, Spike panted. You can keep going if you want. Really, Rarity beamed. Yes, Spike said, a lot more confidently this time. But I'm setting a code word. If I say potato, for whatever reason, I want you to stop, okay? Rarity grinned at him, face jealously. You're not in a position to demand anything from me, insect, she said in a tone that made it clear to Spike she was role-playing. Spike smiled and got back into. I feel like seafood would have been the first thing to discuss for like the do anything part. But okay, fine. I guess I'm not that naive to my safety. I guess, or my friend's safety if I was Rarity in this case. Spike smiled and got back into character. No, you can't do this to me, he yelled, trying to suppress his mediocre acting. Oh, can't I? Rarity ran her finger across his tiny body. Because to me, it looks like I can do anything I want with you. She chuckled. Now let me see. What am I going to do with you? She placed her hand over Spike, pinning him against the dresser. Rarity, please, Spike chuckled. All of this just for spying on you? I think that's enough. Rarity grinned. Enough? Oh, my delusional little Spike. I'm just getting started. She giggled as she leaned forward, lowering her massive face until her chin was flat on the tabletop, sitting on her crossed hands. Now let's get those little rags off of you. She grinned as her huge blue eyes looked at Spike excitedly. What? Stammered Spike. Don't be coy, she teased, slowly rubbing his tiny crotch with the huge finger. You got to see me naked. Now it's my turn. No, please, Spike moaned as she stroked him. It's not looking very impressive right now. Well, I guess if you're too pathetic to even undress yourself, I guess I should also have to do it for you. She plucked the tiny dragon up with her magic. No, wait, Spike screamed. Just give me a chance. But it was too late. Her magic tore his clothes right off his tiny body, revealing his half-inch long boner. I was gonna comment on something. I hope she didn't actually rip his clothes, but at the same time, magic can just fix it. Oh wow, you weren't kidding, Rarity teased, poking his tiny cock with her finger. This is really pathetic. It's a lot bigger when I'm fully sized, Spike huffed. Maybe when you're fully sized, but you're mine now. Rarity set the miniature naked dragon on her dresser. Even still, you've got a cute little bod. Why don't you show it off to me? Spike did as he was told and started flexing his lean muscles. Rarity slowly drank in his smooth, scaled, hairless body. That's a nice little tush you've got. Rarity smiled and poked his little rear, making Spike squeak and jump away. Thanks. Spike blushed as he stood up. He looked Rarity's massive body in absolute awe. Damn, he spread out his arms and allowed Rarity to pick him up. He would have thought this would have been his kink as well. He was absolutely helpless before her, and he loved every second of it. He willingly surrendered himself to the mercy of the sensual giant. The sultry mare brought her hand down over his body, pinning him down by gently placing her pinky down on his chest. Fuck. She could dominate him with just her little finger. Even the size of his body was under her control. She had completely subjugated him. Oh, Rarity, Spike moaned. Even Princess Celestia doesn't have a body like yours. Hey. Spike, I know you love her. And all. But don't compare her to a fucking literal divine being, dude. I guess for you right now, it makes sense if she's a goddess to you right now. That's very sweet of you to say, Spike. Rarity held him up to her lips and kissed him, covering his face with saliva. Maybe I should give you a little reward. Rarity extended her tongue and slowly ran it across Spike's tiny body. Her warm breath washed over him. She continued licking him with her massive tongue, making sure to place a particular amount of care into his sensitive member. Spike purred. That really feels good, Rarity. Ah, God. Ah, good, slave. Oh, a good slave, that's the reward, Rarity said as she continued licking him. Oh yeah, I thought quite the reward, Spike moaned. He was amazed at how into this he was. Being a few inches tall wasn't reassuring, but by the way her giant tongue stroked his body made it all worthwhile. Rarity moved her attention from Spike's front to his back. She flipped the tiny dragon over and started licking his sensitive ear, pushing into his sensitive areas and swirling her silky tongue around in his tight anus. Spike gasped from the pleasure. His body became warm with heat. Spike was starting to really relax when he felt himself being slurped into Rarity's mouth, coating him in a layer of jewel. She slid her nimble tongue underneath him and released her magic, leaving Spike dangling half inside of her mouth. While Spike appreciated the stimulation her powerful lips were giving him, he was a little concerned about being this close to her esophagus. Rarity? Spike chuckled nervously as he found himself up to his neck inside Rarity's mouth. What are you doing? Spike gasped as Rarity full slipped him inside her mouth and slowly closed her teeth, leaving Spike completely trapped in her slimy maw. Rarity started to gradually slide her tongue backwards. Spike tasted absolutely delicious as the taste of his sweet pre-mixing with his terrified sweats filled her mouth. Spike gasped, squeezing his eyes shut. Rarity, that's enough, okay? Potato, potato, but Rarity couldn't hear him. His shouts were muffled inside her mouth. Rarity continued to gulp Spike down. He could only gasp as he felt his body be caught by her powerful esophagus muscles, which clenched snugly against his raging penis. Rarity! The eyes of Spike's head rolled back as his orgasm came to a climax, as a spread of thick, sticky cum burst out of his tiny cock onto the muscular walls, sucking him down into Rarity's inside. Spike could feel her Rarity's heart beat pounding as he slid closer and closer to her gurgling stomach. Spike closed his eyes and accepted his fate. The sudden burst of pleasure had lulled him into a sort of submissive trance. His body was in absolute bliss. He only asked Rarity to swallow him again, assuming he lived that long. She literally told you she's not gonna kill you. That's just crazy. Murder. That's murder and crazy. Spike felt Rarity's magic forming around him, completely surrounding him. A blinding flash filled his vision as he was teleported out of her insides just before he plopped into her churning stomach. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying in Rarity's belly button. He sat in bliss and looked up at the morning mirror. Thank you, Rarity, he smiled. I was a little worried that you were going to really eat me for a second. He stood up to look at her, barely able to see her eyes over her mountain-sized breasts. Of course not, Spiky. Rarity smiled back at the tiny figure in her belly button. She shook her head in amusement. There are much more interesting places for me to put you than my stomach. I think I know what you might have in mind, Spike grinned. Rarity inserted a finger into her mouth and coated it with a layer of saliva. She gently touched the tiny dragon and picked him up with her jewel. Her face lit up with a bright smile as her giant eyes looked down on her tiny captive. Are you ready? She said breathlessly. Honestly, I totally forgot we have belly buttons. I was like, what's a belly button for a minute? Totally forgot we have those. Spike gulped and thought about what he was going to do. He was going to have Rarity insert him into her pussy. He didn't know if he would be coming out once he went in, but it didn't matter. It would be all worth it in order for him to pleasure his giant mare friend. Spike would gladly die for her pleasure if he had to. Oh, that's too much to ask for, Spike. That's too much. That's too much, Spike. Come on. He concentrated on his feelings of utter meaninglessness. He was completely powerless to her. He lived only to serve her. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath, feeling a wave of bravery sweep over him. Put me inside of you. Whew! Rarity brought Spike down in her moist opening, and said her pussy lips were wet with anticipation. Spike didn't even try to resist as he was pushed against them. He completely embraced the flawless folds of her marehood. Spike grabbed onto her massive clitoris, which was almost the same size as him, and started rubbing Rarity's sensitive organ. Rarity moaned with pleasure as his tiny massages tickled her cherry. He wasn't nearly as stimulating as a real meaty cock, but the mental factor alone could cause Rarity's lust to overtake her, as she started rubbing her against her clit with her shaky magic. Spike, she moaned. You're so small, I want you inside of me. Spike was completely covered in Rarity's juices as her vagina began to loosen up. Then do it, Spike shuddered. Put me inside of you. Rarity slowly started to push Spike's head into her hungry pussy. Rarity gasped with joy as Spike completely disappeared inside her sex. Spike floated around, disoriented by the squeezing tightness around him. This is paradise, he exclaimed. Rarity just moaned as Spike climbed further inside of her. Heat flared up inside her as her powerful muscles squeezed Spike the rest of the way in. Rarity rolled in the bliss of swallowing Spike with her pussy. She started shaking with ecstasy as she felt Spike squirming around inside her. The adorable tickles caused by his helpless flailing made her squeeze her thighs together. Spike struggled to even stand. Rarity's insides were flooded with her juices. He could feel himself sweating heavily under the layer of saliva and mercum. As the tunnel gurgled around him, the fleshy walls surrounding him suddenly squeezed down, pushing him further inside. Everything squeezed down tighter around him. A rippling moan vibrated through the vaginal walls. Suddenly Spike's body glowed blue with Rarity's eyes. No, he cried. Don't teleport me out. I want to go deeper. I want to go all the way in. Damn, Spike thinking the deep. Then it hit Spike. Rarity wasn't teleporting him, she was just shrinking him. Spike was far too small to pleasure her. But given how much her pussy was screaming, there wasn't much more he needed to do. He continued to climb deeper and deeper inside of her. Spike got horny as well, but was only able to contain his discharge. He had to save off his release, at least until he made it to Rarity's room. Oh, you got protection. You just gotta pregnate her from here. What the fuck, dude? Spike continued down Rarity's slick tunnel as her body shook with pleasure, and more. A thick cum oozed out of her walls with each quake. The cum quietly covered his body to the point where he was effectively squirming it, but at last, Spike saw his target, her ovary. Spike wrapped himself around one of Rarity's eggs and started rubbing himself against it. He was being thrown around even more roughly as Rarity's body spasmed uncontrollably. Spike started slamming his dragon hood into Rarity's flawless eggs with more and more ferocity after each thrust. Suddenly the walls tightened and clutched around him, squeezing his body against the eggs. The two orgasmed simultaneously. Spike discharged a massive burst of dragon seed all over Rarity's eggs, just as a tsunami of America slammed into the tiny dragon, squishing him all the way through Rarity's tightened tunnel out of her slit. Spike oozed out onto Rarity's bed sheets and gasped. He couldn't believe how tiny he was compared to Rarity. He stood at around 1/100th of an inch, and was nothing but a tiny purple speck in the lake of Rarity's cum. Rarity lay backwards, whining like a whale, drilling all over herself, and gently basking in the afterglow of her orgasm. Spike swam to the edge of the sticky lake. He was completely soaked with Rarity's heavenly juices. The smell of Rarity's sex completely dominated his nostrils. Spike just washed instantly as he watched Rarity wind down from fingering herself. The colossal mare sat up. Spike leaned for her. Spike, are you alright? I'm here, Spike squeaked, something like a buzzing fly. Rarity's magic plucked the tiny dragon up and held him up to her muzzle. Even Rarity seemed surprised by just how tiny Spike had become. He was almost small enough to stand on the tip of a pin. Rarity blushed. I think I might have overdone it a bit. Yeah, Spike laughed, maybe a little. Rarity focused her magic on Spike and brought him back to his original height. She then gave him a tight hug, despite him still being sopping wet with her juices. Thank you, Spike, Rarity moaned. I had a wonderful time. Spike scraped a layer of recum off of himself. Me too, he smiled. But maybe next time I could stay at my normal height. What's wrong? We looked at him concerned. Didn't you have fun? Yeah, I did. It felt good, really good. I don't even know why you felt the need to keep it a secret. Your magic's incredible, Spike assured her. Then what's the problem, Spike asked Rarity. I just wanted you to see how I am when I'm packing my all-natural 7-inch dragon dick rather than something you can only see under a microscope, Spike grinned. Oh, damn. Like, at least let me fuck you for real instead of this roleplay already. Damn. So, like, you went up on the levels, but you want to actually just hit normal full space. Okay, I guess that's fine, Spike. Okay, said Rarity. Thanks, Spike smiled. Do you mind if I use a shower, by the way? I don't want to do round 2 all look covered in your juices. Besides, my boys need a chance to recharge. My boys. No, go ahead. Rarity lay down in bed. I'll be ready when you're done. Spike stepped out of the cascade of warm water and walked out to the bedroom. To his surprise, Rarity wasn't there. Rarity, he called. Suddenly he heard a massive crash outside. He quickly ran to the door and saw a massive upside-down blue eyeball. Looking into the door, Rarity was outside as she was 100 feet tall. Her enormous body was slowly grinding against the boutique. Dozens of ponies who had been aroused from their sleep just stared at the enormous pony. Rarity, Spike gazed in awe at the giantess. I heard what you said, Spike. No shrinking you, Stam. Rarity grinned. Spike just speechless. So, Rarity chuckled. You ready for round 2? What? I thought she was fucking, not... Okay, that was the ending, but I thought she was, like, not... I thought she was embarrassed about it, and Spike would be the only one to know, but no, she just made herself bigger, with the whole town watching, too. What the fuck? That makes no sense. That's not even character development at this point. Family, that's... What? Yeah, no shrieking you this time, but, like, come on. Like, at least let him fuck you for real, though. Like, please, let him fuck you for real. Dude, come on. Let my boy fuck you for real with your normal body as well. God, now I'm pissed at Rarity. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching and listening. Do like you guys do. And this should come out the day I recorded it, because I didn't record it yesterday, because I was waiting for somebody to get out of work so I could go pick them up. But, they got a ride, and they didn't tell me, and I was so fucking annoyed about that. So now I'm getting that little frustration out to Rarity, who was supposed to be embarrassed. God damn it. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching and listening. Thank you guys do. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. I'm so broken here. Yeah, I'm an
outcast. No, I never fit in, but I outlast all these money pump fiends with the color pop dreams. Rather come up on my own, cause they out fast, out fast. Yeah, I'm an outcast.